In Warhammer 40k, if you're a human, being captured as a prisoner isn't likely. Most factions in 40k are just intent on completely eradicating the other factions, so you're better off just dying with a sword or bolter in hand and getting beamed up to Space Valhalla. But a couple factions actually do take captives, although for one of those, I think you'll agree death is preferred. But for the sake of this video, and making it last longer than a couple of minutes, I'll go over times when the other factions might prefer to keep their prey alive. Now, there are factions where human prisoners are just not an option. Either there's no benefit to keep their enemies alive, or they get a greater benefit if their enemies are dead. For instance, the Eldar and the Necrons see themselves as pinnacle beings. All other races are inferior, and so only worthy of extermination. I guess you could argue being added to Trazyn's collection might count. And for Orcs and Tyranids, they would just much rather have you dead. For the Orcs, it would be a waste of enemies they could fight, and for the Tyranids, they devour everything they come across, adding the remaining goop to their biomass. Again, you could argue Tyranid gene stealers kind of enslaved, but that creepy shit is worthy of its own video. There are two factions in 40k that truly take prisoners. One is likely to torture, sacrifice, and rape you in that order, where the other is a race of overly friendly blue aliens that just want you to join the greater good.
What about the greater good?
Now, these vagina-nosed space communists may still put you down. If you took down too many Tau, or if you seem impossible to be reasoned with, then the last thing you will feel is a pulse rifle resting against the back of your skull. But most of the time, they will probe your ass and then your mind for any useful information and then convert you to their communist cause. In this case, you'll probably find yourself with a better standard of living than what you had previously. Now, you will have to prove yourself useful to the cause, but you'll find yourself having more free will, and you won't have to worry about being called a heretic when you accidentally come across those sexy Fulgrim pictures. Speaking of heresy, if you were then to be recaptured by the Imperium of Man, then you'd be shot dead instantly, or even worse. The Dark Eldar, or Drukhari, would gladly take you as a prisoner. They actually prefer to capture rather than to slaughter, not because they care for you, no, they just want to make you suffer more. They want to capture slaves, so they'll be experiment subjects for their fucked up homunculi who transform and combine you with other prisoners into twisted abominations and creatures of war. And that's only if you are lucky. You see, the Dark Eldar actually requires suffering to survive, and so being a subject of the homunculi will likely be a quicker end than to become a victim of their torture fetish. They have perfected this art over thousands of years, and to give you a few fucked up examples, they have been known to turn victims into living towers of flesh, or even serve you up as a sentient soup where you'll feel people eating and digesting you.
Good soup.
Nope, you can call me a coward or whatever, but if I was ever unlucky enough to come across the Dark Eldar, you'd find my corpse with a rather large bolt exit out the back of my head. Chaos, where your end can be as gruesome as it would be with the Dark Eldar. Normally, Chaos doesn't aim to capture victims all the time. For instance, they have been known to wipe out full cities and even planets. But to replenish troops and other dark purposes, forces of Chaos will raid planets to capture slaves. For example, new Chaos Space Marines can be created similar to how normal Space Marines are. Children that get captured are left to compete with each other to survive. The strongest remaining then gets the Chaos Touch gene seed shoved down their throat so they can become a new Chaos Space Marine for the front line. Or if you're unlucky enough to be a woman, you could find yourself captured to become a demon collabor. These women find their bodies mutate horrifically to grotesque proportions. And then, and I fucking kid you not, then a grown man is inserted into them along with a gene seed. Basically, a reverse C-section is carried out. A few days later, out pops the heretic Astartes. Now hopefully the woman doesn't survive the birth, but if they do, then the whole process is started again. That's right, ladies, being a woman in 40k isn't any easier. Most of the time, if the Imperium of Man captures an enemy, they are interrogated and quickly executed, the Imperium not allowing for disgusting aliens to live. However, if you're a captured human, then depending on why you were captured in the first place decides on what happens to you. If you're an uncontacted human and willingly surrendered, then you are gifted to become a useful servant to the Emperor. However, if you are found to be a heretic piece of shit, then you would probably be executed or put into a labour camp, where you would get worked to death anyway. You could even get to redeem your sins by being turned into a servitor or a penitent engine, a sort of second chance to serve the Emperor. But most of the time, heretics and traitors are shot on sight with no mercy, just the way Papa Emp likes it. My personal opinion is that being captive of the Dark Eldar is probably the worst faction to be caught by, but then again, I'm being biased, as I'm not a fucking woman. Let me know in the comments what your opinion is, or if there's any other horrific details I've missed out. We're also having a giveaway in our Discord when we reach 10k subs, so please remember to like, share and subscribe so we can actually make this giveaway happen.